This tutorial is going to show you how to create a shadow band based on a picture that you have of the engagement ring. So we're going to begin first by placing the picture of the engagement ring. We do this with the View menu tool picture frame, and that gives us a lot more flexibility than the other place background bitmap commands. Just remember this places first the one edge, the bottom edge of the picture, and you can place it at any angle, but hold down shifts to engage ortho so that it goes in a straight line. Okay, now you can pick this up and move it around just by clicking and dragging it, but we're going to do a little more here. To begin, we're going to place a rectangle on the cutting layer, and we're going to draw this right at the extents of the part here, so that we can get the exact size. Okay, so I'm going to pick this up and just move it a little. Let's see. Okay, and a little to the left, a little to the left, a little to the right. Okay. As long as this is drawn planar or flat on the same plane as the picture, you're able to split the picture with the curve. So select the picture and split it with the curve on it. Enter. You can just throw away all the stuff you don't need. And now we have, in effect, a bounding box. So we can center and actually get this picture straight in the viewports. So we can select the whole thing, and in the Utilities menu, grab the Center Object tool and move to 0 in X, Y, and Z and just hit center. And it'll be bumped into the center of the grid. Okay, next let's place the ring size. You might have any size. You would know the size of the person, but we're just going to use 7, and we're going to extend this about 2 millimeters past the end of our ring to give a good representation of it. So select the picture frame again. In the transform menu, grab the 2D scale command, and starting at F4, because we know that's the center of the picture, we're going to come out to the edge of the picture, and there's the edge of the ring. And we're going to extend it 2 millimeters for the thickness of the ring past the edge of that ring. Okay. Now it's set. And we don't really want to select this surface and move it around either on purpose or by mistake anymore. So I like to grab it, put it on the lights layer, and lock it. And that way we can't accidentally select it and move it around anymore. Okay. The next thing is you'll have a pretty good idea of the shape of this ring. Obviously you've seen it, or you might have pictures of it in the through finger viewport, and what shape you want for the band in that viewport. So we're going to go ahead and in the tools menu grab the outside ring rail, kind of roll all this up, and just hit start. And you can make sure that the top thickness is right. You might want a little lower, 2 millimeters at the side to match the other band, and you're all set. Press enter to place it. Okay, we're next going to trace the shape of the band of the inside of this band where it's going to just nestle up against the engagement ring. We're going to use the shape of the ring in order to do that. And I like to do this with the most simple curve tools I can find. So I'm going to start with the arc direction. Make sure you start past the outside rail and pull this so that it matches that shape. Okay, and if you need to, you can make it a little larger there. Okay. I'm going to take this and mirror it since the ring is symmetrical. Around F4, holding down Shift. The next trick I like is the circle tool with the 3-point option. This lets me set 2 points to the circle. Obviously, I want this circle touching the 2 arc directions, so 1 point, 2 point. But my 3rd point lets me just pull the circle out so that it follows the curvature of, I want it to follow the curvature of that center gem as closely as possible in this region right here. So I'm not so concerned about up here, but I want it to follow the edge of the ring down here. Okay, and if I want, I can turn off the lights layer and take a look at what I've got. So the shape is right here, and all I need to do to set that shape is to trim it out. So I'm going to grab everything on the green layer, right click on green, run the trim command, and just trim away the extra part. Enter. I'm going to want to join this up, but I'm also going to want to fillet the edge right here. So I'm going to run the fillet command. We'll try radius of 1, radius R, enter, 1, enter, and just depending on how gentle or sharp I want that angle. And I'll join everything up since fillet creates extra curves in there. And here's the shape next to the engagement. Okay, my next order of business is to offset this to the thickness that I want for the wedding band. So I'm going to come down to the offset command. 2 millimeters is what's set in there, and that's a good distance for the thickness. Now, the other option we have right at this point is to decide how wide we want it here. Okay, before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and fillet these again. And if I wanted to, I could fillet it with a different amount so that the inside and the outside of the band look different. So I could do a radius of 2, and that just gives me a softer curvature on the outside of the band. Again, it's up to you how this is going to be created, but select everything and join it together. Okay, and as I was saying, if I want to make a wider band right here to add bigger stones, if those stones are going to taper wider at the top and narrower on the sides, I go ahead and turn on the control points for this curve, and then grab everything I want to edit. Pull it out like that. Okay, undo. My other option is to grab more of these points so that the whole thing comes out more slowly. Okay, that looks a little weird. Let's figure out the ones I don't want to grab. And in this way, you can just kind of massage the shape of this to be anything that you want for the ring, for tapered or uniform, a really narrow little band or wider at the top for bigger stones. I'm going to leave mine like this for uniform stones, but yours can be up to you. Okay, with this setup, we're all ready to go into Advanced Custom Rail and create the rails for this ring. So we'll grab a new layer color. This is a tool menu command, so start up Advanced Custom Rail. Now it says shape curves, plural, but we're just going to use one at a time. Select the curve and press enter. Okay, and the first thing it does is to match with the finger rail using the curve from two views command. So here's the finger rail shape. You can see the new curve in red, and it also follows the curvature of the shape curve that we selected. Okay, we also need an outside one for this. The best way to control this shape is with 4 rails. So we go and select the outside option, the outside finger rail, and there are 2 of them. Okay, press enter and run the command again. Grab the outside shape curve, wait just a moment, or I'm sorry, press enter and give it a minute, and it too will match the finger rail. Grab the outside option once more, the outside finger rail, and there are your 4 rails that are going to create your wedding band shape. So press enter to place them. Now remember that this tool has history, so if at this point you'd like to edit any of these curves, maybe you remembered that the ring should be a little taller at the top, select the outside rail and hit F6, edit outside, and raise the thickness a little. Press enter, and the whole thing bumps up. Okay, let's watch that again. Undo, redo. Okay, so all we did was edit the handles on the outside curve, and it also affects the new curves. So redo or undo. Okay, there you go. And in that way, you've got complete control over the new shapes. The other way you can control the new shapes is with the original 2 curves. Remember, we created these with really simple shapes so that when we turn on control points, it won't look like a big mess. So if we wish to edit these now, maybe we decided that we wanted to put the taper in the top of the ring, we don't have to go all the way back. We select the flat or planar curve, turn on the control points, select the control points, shift, and drag them out, and notice that our new curves changed as well. Okay, it's so immediate that it's even hard to notice. So undo, redo, and now we have that tapered shape at the top. I'm going to undo that again because mine's going to be uniform. But those are the options that you have for editing these curves. Okay, once you're ready to go with these curves, you're going to want to leave them alone from then on, but you can always go back and edit the original curve shapes in either view. Okay, everything that's flat or planar. Okay, let's move on and look at how to create the profiles for this. I'm going to hide the shapes just to give us a little space here to work with. In the surface menu, we're going to grab the plane command. Drawing this and looking down will make sure it's flat in the looking down view. We're going to grab all the new curves and the new surface, and in the curve menu we're going to run the tool intersection. And what this does is place 4 point objects along the plane where the curves intersect the plane. The reason we did this is because these curves, this might not be their quad anymore. We really don't have a snap point right here to which to draw these profiles. We want to make sure the profiles match the rails exactly so that they're at this unique little angle where they have to nestle up next to your engagement ring. Okay, so that's the best tool I know. Place that plane, select the new rails, and run intersection to place points right here so you have something to snap to when you're drawing these profiles. So let's grab the creation layer, the line tool, and the point O snap, and just draw this point, 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 point. Okay, for the last one we can draw an arc direction from each point and just pull it out with a little bit of curvature. Okay, we can join these all up, join. And if you wish to, you can fill out the edges so that your render comes out a little more smooth. Otherwise, you can leave it sharp. It's up to you. But we're going to run fillet curves on this, or I'm sorry, fillet corners with a radius of 0.2, enter. And it just gives you that little bit of curvature on the edges. And yes, they should all be joined. Okay, we're ready now to make this into a profile. And the best way to do this is with the profile tool. That's a tool menu command. And we start it up and you put the profile into the box. And handles are added to your rail. Now notice that the handles look kind of crazy. You don't want to click and drag them here. This one thinks it's height. This one thinks it's width. We need to set the origin so they're run like other profiles in the program. So we go to the edit command and the edit origin option, and we click and drag this to the midpoint, pointing upward at the top of the profile. We can go back to the move handles, and now you can see that height and width and everything's correct. However, we don't want to use these just yet. The first thing we're going to do, the reason we're inside this profile tool, is so that we can add another one matching. Okay, and then make sure these profiles are active with history. If we associate them with the rail, we're able to do things like change the shape later on with history. Okay, so we're first going to run select rail. Now notice that this little option has this sub option, keep location equals no. We want to hit keep location equals yes, so that that thing doesn't get moved out of position. If we have keep location equals no, then it does get moved to about the 50% position on the rail we select, which is probably not here, okay? So with keep location equal yes, we grab one of these rail curves to associate it with, and look, it's left alone, but we do have the position on curve option right here, okay? Now that we've added it, or now that we've added it to the rail, we can add another one using mirror. Okay, mirror places the identical little guy on the other side. So that's all set. And at this point, we can just press enter to end this command. We've got 2 profiles, 4 rails, and we're ready to sweep. Okay, one thing though, before we run the sweep is, remember we have to run multi-rail sweep because we have 4 rails here. So I'm going to grab the profile one last time, hit F6, MSR, and check on my edit points. And this is going to change both of them. It's going to affect both of them when I change these because they're mirrored. So I hit E to look at my edit points, and I was pretty sure they'd be okay. All right, they need to be lined up correctly with my rails. So if you need to, you can move them around just a little bit so that they are aligned properly with the rails. Okay, and if you wish, you can check these over here, but they should be the same because they're mirrored, so that's all set. Press enter. And now we're ready to sweep these. So align your edit points before multi-rail sweep if you want to make sure it's going to be successful. And we'll save this version of it off. And we're now ready to sweep. All right, let's grab a new layer color to place this on a new color. Start up the multi-rail sweep tool, and it's going to ask you for the rail curves. And I learned it's best to select these in pairs with the inside pair and the outside pair. But it's also necessary to go around in the way the surface is going to be created. So we have 1, 2 for the inside pair, and working in sequence 3, 4 for the outside pair. You can only select 4, so it jumps over to asking for your profiles. Grab them in order according to the arrows and press enter. And your surface is created. Let's take a look at that surface. That's a great looking surface. And it'll fit right up next to your ring. Okay. Our next order of business is to see what all the history, what history can do for us here in this instance. Now I told you it's best to edit these things before you sweep the surface, but you can edit some things with the surface swept. So let's take a look. It is kind of hard to adjust the rails. It's possible, but it can be a little difficult and have some unexpected results. So it's better to adjust the rails before you do the sweep. But if we pull this out, you'll notice our surface try and resweep itself to accommodate, and it had a little difficulty. Okay, so it's better to change the history there before. Also, here's another one. Remember, here's one we could do. If we raise the thickness, enter, the rails go up and the surface doesn't follow. It just has some quirks. So go ahead and make sure you adjust those things before you do the sweep. Maybe that's something we'll look at fixing. But something you can fix, which is awfully cool, you can edit the profile. Okay, so let's hit F6. Remember, these are mirrored, so it'll have the same effect on both sides. You can choose a new shape, or over here in your profile placer, you can actually hit edit and change some things about this profile. Because remember, we drew this ourselves, so we probably want it this way. We don't really want to try one from the builder because it might not have the correct slant that needs to sit up against the original ring, okay? Because that ring was tapered. So instead, we can come in here, grab a little circle cutter, stick it at the top, or do anything else you want to edit this. This is just one little example. Trim everything away. Trim. Enter. And if you wish to fill out these, oh, too far. We'll try and put 2. That doesn't look so nice. We'll leave them straight. Make sure everything's joined, and then don't click any of these or it'll move this thing out of its position. So just trust that you did a good job making this. So we'll call it, I always save it just in case something happens in the process of bringing it from the editor back to the viewports. If I need to bring it up again, I just save it just in case. Especially when you're making a movie, because it has to think pretty hard. Okay, profile added, and return profile. And you'll see it change. You'll also see that the other one has changed. Press enter. And you can see the new ring. Don't be alarmed by that little thing. That's history updating itself. But there's a totally new version of this ring. So maybe you'd like to show the customer a version without stones, a version with stones, and a version with this pretty little groove in it. So now I just hit undo to undo that groove, and I'll save that one off. I can hit redo and show the customer this really interesting groove that I can make run down the middle. Instantly, I could put a groove on the front here. I could put a little divot in the front for like engraving pattern on the side. I've got all kinds of cool possibilities. Okay. And I'll hit undo again because we're going to show you how to put some, undo. We're going to show you how to put some gems on this puppy and how history relates with the gems. So to get some gems on there, let's first grab a new layer color. We'll turn some of the extra stuff off here just so that we can see what we're doing. With a new layer color, we're going to go into the curve menu and run extract iso curve. This is sometimes hard to do with the plastic mode on. Extract it to the middle and run it again to the other midpoint and join these two up. It's not really necessary to split this, but you can if you want to split it halfway. We'll take this curve and put it into the gem tool, gems on a curve. Okay. Run these down to the side and run these up to the other side. The other thing is you'll notice these are at this weird angle. Right now they're trying to point to F4, which is over here. So they've got a funny angle on them. So in the command line, grab the Q direction option and choose the object sub option and click on the surface. And they all just kind of flipped, so they are pointed down. You'll also want to turn on mirror, which is only available here in the command line. And that way you can make sure your center is located at the center of the stone, which it was, or at the center of the ring, and that it stays there. Okay, you can size these down. Mine were about 1.8, but let's see, 1.8. Okay, but I drew it a little differently this time, so we'll make them a little smaller. 5. And you can set the spacing however you want it. And if you know you'll be channel setting these, you can run the gem top height and lower them down. And of course, you'll need to unshade the model in order to see just how close they are and if that works for your needs. You'll do this according to the needs of your bench jeweler and what you usually do to set stones in their placement. So definitely don't rely on me as the expert on this. Okay. Let's save this version. And we're going to run the channel builder, but we're also going to show you how to save and reapply this style in case you want to make some changes to this ring. So let's select all our gems, go into our channel cutter, and place them into the builder. Okay. The channel is going to come out on there, the default channel. And I've already adjusted the cap length, the width to smaller, the extension, the height, and the offset to the dimensions that I wanted. So that's going to be up to you how that's run. But as you're adjusting them, you can turn on the Boolean option and select the surface of the ring. Give it just a minute to think about this, and then you can see the actual Booleans while you're working. And once you know you like it, don't hit enter yet. Instead, go into the styles menu and save this style. That way, if you choose to make any changes to the ring, you can reapply the same style. And if you reapply it within this builder, you'll be able to get the handles back and continue editing it. So suppose you wanted a different taper for the top of the ring. We'll show you how to adjust all that with history. And then come back in, apply the same style, and then if it doesn't work, you can change other things about it with the handles. Okay. So when you've saved it, just close out this interface and press enter to keep your changes. And there's the channel cut. All right, the last thing is going to be to apply micro prong cutters to this. So reselect the gems, come into the micro prong cutter tool. And this is from a style right out of the builder. And if you want to see that style, you go into the styles menu. It's this guy right here and hit apply. Okay. This also has the Boolean option, so you can tweak these handles if you don't like the results yet. So with Boolean turned on, grab the surface option and select that surface. And this one you really have to give some time. And so just sit back and wait. Don't try and click a lot of other things right now or else it might freak out and crash. Especially if you're making a movie. There we go. So once you're patient and give it a chance, you'll be able to see those micro prongs appear. And you can decide again based on your setter your bench jeweler, your techniques in your shop, whether this is a good, whether these are good values for your prongs. And if they're not, you can adjust accordingly. And again, every time after you adjust, just give it a second to wait. Right now mine's thinking. Okay, there they are. Okay, and since we have changed this style, we're going to save this one as well. Save it only when it's the latest, greatest thing and you know you're done tweaking the handles. And in this micro prong cutter folder, we can call it anything we want. Okay, and once you're done, just hit X. And again, let's give this a second to reconnect. Matrix needs quality time. Quality time with itself to think about its life. There it comes, okay. And press enter. And these will be the results that it outputs, anything it did in the preview. Okay, here we go. Let's job bag this and talk about history. Okay, suppose we were wanting to change the surface. Now, of course, we'll need all our original curves back, and we turn those on just to show you, to be able to have something easier for you to look at for this video, but you want the curves. Obviously, you don't want to delete any of these curves because all the history is, or doing these history strategies is going to be dependent on those curves. The first thing we'll do is save them off. Oh, I want to show you this. This is cool. Look at how it fits right next to your ring. You could even go into preview mode and show your customer, there's your pretty new band. And if you want to, you can mirror it and make them two. Do you want one or two? Double the price. And you can even see what it's going to look like. So beautiful. Okay, sorry about that. Talking about history. Back to shaded, please. Okay, turn that off. All right, we're talking about history. So when you're ready to change this, your customer goes, oh no, well, I really didn't like that. Okay, leave your gems out there, and remember you can come back in, F6 on these, F6, oh, not F6, select the planar curve and run the edit points on it. Okay, and as we go ahead and move these, okay, it's going to change the outside rails, so that's all good. So let's grab a little more here. She wants a wider band at the top, maybe um, she wants the tapered, the larger stones at the top. Okay, so we'll make a little more room for that. Okay, escape. And notice that that changed our rails. Undo, undo, redo. Okay, so changing those changes our rails. So the hard part's done. We'll just turn off the stones for right now and re-sweep the ring and see if she's happy with that. Okay, multi-rail sweep, inside, outside, and our two profiles going in the order of the arrows. Oh, it's blue. She wants it in blue. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. All right. Okay, with that reswept, remember that we still have our gems out there, so you can select them, F6, and edit gems on a curve. Okay, and notice they come in with their culet directions at F4. We had deleted that surface that they were pointing to, so we have to reset their culet directions to an object. That object is the surface. Okay, and then we have to find them again, little guys. Okay, there they are. And we want to set this time to tapered, so tapered gem equals yes. And we can make that center gem a little larger. Not too large, not so large that it goes off the surface. Just a little larger. Okay. enter. And now remember that we had made this wider, but we never changed the ISO curve that made the gem line, so we cheated a little. So F6, MSR, oops, let's ungroup them first. Remember, gems come out grouped, so ungroup, and now just select 1 or 2 to move. F6, MSR, and we can drag him this way a little. We can unshade the model to see where he is in relation to his buddies, and we could even scale him up a tiny bit. Enter. Same thing with these two. F6, MSR. We want to push them outward. Scale them up a little. Enter. And the rest of them sort of follow suit. So there's a way to customize the little gems that we stuck on there on that new surface. Okay. So there's history with the rails. Obviously, we can change the profile the way we did in the last example, or we can change the gems by using edit gems on a curve. Now we want to get back those same cuts and see if they need any tweaking now that we've changed our ring. So let's select all of our little guys again, and we can group them back together. And working back in our cutter builder, our channel cutter, we'll put these in. Now this is going to default to the last channel that we used, which is fine in our case, but if we waited a couple of days before we saw this customer, we'd run other channel cuts in between, we would have to come in and look for this style. So in the styles menu, we'll do load style and open up the style we just saved and go ahead and load it on there. Now, again, you're not going to see visible change, but if you weren't doing this on the same exact day, for example, you would need to, and you'd done other channel cuts in between, or you closed down matrix and the defaults came back when you input these gems, you want to go into the styles and find the style that you saved. And that gives you back all the controls, including the interactive booleans. Choose our surface with the handles still turned on so you can see if this is really the same channel you wanted now that the gems have changed. So it's a little, they're bigger, so maybe we can set the offset down a little more. Maybe we want the width a little higher. Okay, so whatever you feel like you might need to change, you've got those controls. Press enter and we'll shade it up to see that it cut the channel indeed. And we're ready to do the same thing in the prong placer. Grab the group, put them into micro prong cutters. Okay, and same thing again, we have to go back and load the style. We did change the style a little, so let's go style load. Open. And again, we'll grab, apply. There's all our handles, and we want to give it a chance to see the results before we decide that they're good. So grab the surface, making sure that Boolean's on, and then give it just a second to think. Give it a moment. Okay, and once it makes all the cuts, you can see if that's indeed the style you wanted. And press enter when you're happy with it. And there's two versions of one ring, okay, using history. And notice that we did, in fact, get it so it's all set up next to its buddy, the original engagement ring. And you can even copy to the other side, and the customer can ooh and ah at your wonderful job designing her wedding band.